Zero waste strategies. Again, we're a zero waste consulting firm. We're based in the Austin area. We work with businesses, local governments, and institutions to help them reduce waste to landfill. And that helps those businesses save money, empower their employees, create more brand affinity from their customer base, as well as promote green marketing strategies for companies. So these are some of our clients. You may recognize some of these logos. Zero Waste Strategies was founded back in 2013. So we've had some time. We're coming up on year, what would it be, 12? In January of 2025 will be our 12-year anniversary. So we've worked with some pretty heavy hitters and even small businesses as well, because zero waste as a business efficiency concept is scalable. So it doesn't matter what your revenue is. If you want to reduce your waste to be more sustainable, if you want to save money, if you want to be more relevant in your industry as a green leader, then zero waste is for you. So who am I? I got my beginning back in 2003 in the environmental field. I worked with an environmental nonprofit. I actually went door to door for about 9 years, all over, all 181 legislative districts of Texas. We've knocked on doors in Colorado, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, New Jersey, and just talking to people, normal everyday conversations on their front doorstep, and talking to them about environmental issues, pollution, government accountability, and what can be done regarding holding corporations accountable as well to the emissions that they're putting out. So in that time, I helped develop and pass 2 statewide recycling bills for toxic e-waste for computers and televisions. In 2007, we passed the computer take-back law. We worked with Dell. And in 2011, we worked with Panasonic and Thompson television producers or manufacturers to get the Texas TV take-back law instituted. So if you are a Texas resident and you have old computers and televisions you need to get rid of, please don't dump them. They are highly toxic. They contain lead, mercury, and arsenic, and don't belong in our landfills. There are take-back programs through the Texas Commission on Environmental Equality, or just the TCEQ, which is our state environmental organization. I also helped pass 4 recycling ordinances as well here in the city of Austin. One for the bag ban, one for the curbside composting program for single-family residential homes, construction and demolition waste debris recycling ordinance, as well as the universal recycling ordinance. And that is requirement for all commercial properties within the city limits to provide recycling to residents or to tenants and renters at multifamily properties like apartments and condos, as well as office parks and medical facilities. You get the drift. That also requires food permit businesses to take to reduce their food waste to landfill as well. So during that time, also back in 2009, I helped found the Austin Zero Waste Alliance. That was a watchdog group where we would search for good zero waste policy that was coming out of municipalities throughout the country, so that we could kind of tailor that to what would fit for City of Austin. And we would go and pitch that to council members and their aides. We would lobby for it, and we helped pass some of the ordinances that I just mentioned. So I also served for 2 years as a city council appointee to the Austin Zero Waste Advisory Commission. That allowed us to vet zero waste policy before it got to the dais for city council to vote on. So we were kind of that buffer between what the community wanted, what the business community wanted, what the city employees were saying that the city needed. We would our job was to kind of put it all together and make sure that all the wrinkles were ironed out before the finalized policy went to the city council for a vote. And now I'm currently serving as a board member and executive committee member of the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, or STAR. And STAR is a business organization that is comprised of regular Joe Schmoes that care about recycling to waste haulers to recycling and composting processors all across Texas to the business community. We do legislative work at the state capitol as well. So we're very kind of have the finger on the pulse of waste diversion and recycling here in Texas. So let's get to some key zero waste terms. Just to give us a foundation. So diversion, when we talk about diversion, we're talking about the act of reduction or reuse of materials for new products or services instead of sending those to the landfill. Zero waste is a term that we use to divert discards from landfills and incinerators by 90% or more through that materials reduction, reuse, recycling, composting, and repurposing. Now, organics, when we talk about composting, we use the word compost and organics, food waste and organics kind of interchangeably. The word organics in this context does not mean the organic produce aisle in your grocery store or the organic meat aisle in your grocery store, right? It's the organics, it's the plant or the animal byproduct, right, that can be composted. So anything that grows from the ground like a plant or can come from something that grows like meat, oyster shells, paper towels. And then finally, the act of composting is a natural process that breaks down those organic materials. And once it's done processing, it looks like chocolate cake. It turns into a dark soil-like material that is called compost. And you can usually buy bags of compost for your garden or to treat your soil. It's got, vitamins and nutrients and minerals in there that amends the soil. So what exactly is zero waste in a kind of day-to-day real life context? Again, we've got that definition here, 90% or more, but you can see here where governments, corporate commitments, nonprofits, even conferences are starting to go zero waste. We have university campuses all across the country where their green teams and their student groups are coming together to demand zero waste operations of the administration. So another reason why zero waste is important, now you've heard of the 3 R's, of course, reduce, reuse, recycle, but zero waste really prioritizes other avenues for these materials like refusal, reduction, reuse, repair, remanufacturing, refabrication, upcycling, downcycling, donation, with recycling and organics composting as the last resort. If you think of all of these in a reverse triangle where the tip is at the bottom, it's kind of like a zero waste hierarchy. You've got refusal, reduction, and reuse at the very top, and at the very, very bottom, you've got recycling and composting, and at the very, very bottom, you've got landfill and incinerator. And those are disposal methods, not diversion methods. Very, very critical distinction there. Now, reducing these materials to landfill reduces how much landfill space we actually need. Reduces emissions from incinerators. Landfills and incinerators are one of the top 5 climate gas emitters globally. So a lot of the reason that CO2 and methane come from these landfills is because of the rotting food and rotting landscape debris like grass clippings and shrubbery that is decomposing. We call this putrescible waste. This putrescible waste is rotting, decomposing, putting off the methane and carbon emissions. And of course, you guys probably already know that methane is far more harmful to our atmosphere than CO2. So we look at this as kind of like a waste berg. Think about, the Titanic. Titanic was not sunk by what they saw on the water level and above. It was sunk by what was underneath, which is the vast majority of the iceberg, right? So the waste berg is just like that. For every pound of waste that you roll out to the curb, to your curbside program for recycling or trash or even food waste composting, yard waste composting, there was about 71 pounds of waste that was produced upstream in order to create that 1 pound. And food waste makes up about 40% of the entire landfill stream, even though about 1 in 8 people in America go hungry every day. So just something to think about where we can start connecting those dots. So another reason zero waste is important is 5 Ps. You've probably heard of people, planet, profit, but I think there's a couple of more that we can squeeze in there. One would be purpose. People want to go to work or start a business with purpose, especially your younger generations, your younger millennials, your Gen Zs, especially your Gen Alphas who are feral AF coming up, and they're getting their first jobs, right? So mowing lawns or whatever. They want to have a purpose whenever they go to work. They want to see that the company that they're working for, and this is more like Gen Z, and younger millennials, maybe even older millennials, definitely Gen X. Shout out to Gen X if you're Gen X. I see you. But the purpose within the business or where you're working is really critical to these newer generations. And then the fifth P is policy. The reason that a lot of businesses start to support policy is because there's been a public outcry or a bubbling up from the grassroots, which is what I used to do in my nonprofit environmental job that I worked with, knocking on doors, right? We would organize communities to put pressure on elected officials. Elected officials would or would propose legislation. The business community would come in and a lot of times would kill it. So unfortunately, and if you don't know, politicians are in the pockets of of corporate America. So it's important to go after the companies. So when we worked to get the computer take back law passed, we were able to target Dell employees. We were able to target their CFO, Michael Dell himself. We were able to get letters written from the community, handwritten letters, and kids to draw pictures mailed straight to their homes. And it was kind of a radical approach, but it brought Dell to the table to finally sit down with us and have a discussion. They got about 10,000 letters in our 4-year campaign. So we were able to get Dell to the table. And what this allowed us to do was to work with Dell to have them help us draft the legislation. And whenever they helped us lobby for it, they walked around to all of the legislative offices at the state capitol with us. And guess what? When it passed, we got every single vote in the House and Senate. It was a unanimous vote on environmental policy, which you never see in Texas. So we got, because Dell's such a heavy hitter, right? They are one of the main employers in Central Texas, if not the main employer. And they were able to back, this producer take back bill. And so again, we repeated that victory on television. So we got Panasonic to lobby with us at the state capitol. We only got 6 no votes in the Senate and 12 no votes in the House. And I'd say that's 90% of lawmakers said, yeah, okay, let's do this. So the policy piece of it is really critical because the businesses have so much sway over lawmakers, and the businesses are the ones who are creating the vast majority of the emissions. I believe the statistic is there's about 100 companies global that are creating 70 to 80% of the emissions. And these companies they're run by people. Those people have names, they have email addresses, they have social media. So, they're not these kind of one-offs. They're actual people, and that we can get in touch with as consumers. So zero waste also creates jobs, and we have to think about all the materials that are no longer going to landfill. What happens to them? They're getting diverted away from landfill, but where? So it creates jobs at the local level because there's markets for materials processing and the compost processing. There's jobs for reuse and sorting and even remanufacturing, where businesses are taking materials for the products that they're making, but they're using materials that are recyclable, right? They're putting that recycled content into their own products. It also saves money. Whenever you optimize, any business efficiency optimizes your operations, it saves you money. That goes with energy, it goes with water, it goes with waste. Again, it saves landfill space. In Texas, we've got a problem because we have about 200 active landfills across the state, and a lot of them, and I mean a lot of them, sit right on top of water sources. So, and the 99% of them leak, by the way. So it's important to not have to dig any more landfills by going zero waste, diverting all those materials away from landfills so we don't have to dig more holes in the ground where we put our crap and bury it up with sand or dirt. And then that, starts the rotting process, right? And then, of course, the green marketing edge, any business that is kind of elbowing out the competition using green marketing strategies is very smart. Green marketing is one of the most overlooked marketing strategies across the board. So when businesses do have a sustainability strategy, a lot of times they are not as well versed in how to promote that. And let me tell you, when you do green marketing, you're going to start finding those that top tier talent of those new recruits, and it helps people stick around a little bit longer whenever it comes to retaining your current employees. So having that green operation internally gives people that purpose, one of those 5 P's that we talked about a minute ago, and it also helps you recruit new top tier talent whose values, their core beliefs and values align with green operations. And that's where they want to work with purpose, right? So moving on, reduce, reuse, recycle. Yes, we've been over that. There's something missing. It's always these couple of R's in between the very last R of recycling. The repair, the refabrication, reclaiming, remanufacturing, resoiling. These are some, just some re's that kind of get left out between, the second and the third R's. You got reduce, reuse, but all of these need to come in between before you get to that last R of recycling. So zero waste creates well-paying green jobs with dignity. I'd mentioned this before, but here's a little breakdown of what that looks like. If I'm a trash hauler, right? And I have 10,000 tons of waste. If I bring it to a landfill, it's going to create one job. It literally takes one person to push a button on the side of a hauler truck to where the hydraulics work, and it lifts up the back end, and the load slides out onto the open working face of the landfill. And they just drive off, right? Now, if I have that same 10,000 tons of waste, I can create 4 jobs through composting, 10 jobs through recycling, and 75 to 250 jobs through the reuse sector. And these are all EPA stats. So get ready. We are going to test your recycling knowledge. This is the pop quiz. And you can, let me show you what the kind of the answer options are going to be. We can either, and it can be one or a multitude of these, but you want to type in the chat box whenever I get to the question, and this is the order, remember, reduce, reuse, recycling, organics, composting, and finally landfill trash. So this is kind of the hierarchy we're talking about. But you're going to type in the chat box what order you think they go in and which one of these would actually appear for each item that I present to you. So let's start with our first one. Get your fingers ready. So paper hand towels. What do we do with paper hand towels? And I'll give you 20 seconds. And Corey or Deb, if you've got some answers coming through the chat and you want to read them out, what do we got?
Can you go back to the options again there, Stacy, just so as people are getting familiar with what to put in? There we go. Looks like compost is the winner.
All right. Let's get the answer here. Yes. So preferably in this order, you want to really compost those paper towels, because the paper towels have been downcycled so many times that the threads in the fiber are just far too short for them to be of any value to the recycler. Now, if you get long, beautiful threads from newspaper, long, beautiful threads and fibers from office paper, That's really what they want. They want the long threads that they can do more with. A downcycled paper towel, you can just see it whenever you hold it up to the light, all the crisscross fibers, and it's all mishmashed together. So if you've got an organics bin, then that's where you would put it. Many businesses are starting to implement this to capture their paper towel waste. But if you don't, of course, you want to put it in the trash. Don't put it in the recycling bin, please. Next up. What's up with plastic checkout bags? We've got donate, reuse, recycle, compost, trash. Corey or Deb? Any answers coming through?
We are seeing some reuse come up as number one.
Good.
Recycle, depending on what's available in your area, right?
All right. Answer is yes. Reuse. Recycling does not go into your blue bin. These are what we call tanglers. And if they go into your blue bin, then they will be processed with other rigid products like metals and your number ones and twos, plastics. So these tanglers get wrapped around the mechanical gears at the recycling plant. And I've seen video of where they literally have to shut down the plant. Remember, time is money. And they have to put someone in a holster, lower them down like they're rappelling down a mountain with a box cutter, and they have to cut this stuff away. So please do not put any plastic bags in the recycle bin. And but you can bring them to a local retailer that has a storefront program. I know HEB, at least here in the Austin area, you might want to check with your HEB. They've got take back programs where you can bring your plastic bags back, and they do a recycling program. And of course, if you don't have access to any of that, then go ahead and put them in the trash, please. Next up, shower containers.
We're mostly saying recycle.
Okay.
Some reuse.
All right, let's get to the answer then. We've got recycling, and if you don't have access to recycling, then it would be trash. You want to give them a little rinse though before, definitely get all the product out as much as possible to actually use on your body, your hair, or whatever. But at the end of the day, whenever it's all said and done, and you're done with the bottle, then definitely want to recycle that. If you do have reuse options, definitely do that first. But for most folks, having access to recycling is your first choice. Now, here's a pro tip. Place a small recycling bin in your home bathrooms to collect that plastic container waste, and even cardboard paper towel rolls. Those are recyclable. Next up is clothing and textiles. What are we going to do with this guy? Donate, reuse, recycle, compost, trash.
Got a lot of donate and reuse. Some trash. Repurpose, which is kind of recycling, but different types of recycling.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get to the answer. Yes, donate first, of course, reuse, and then guess what? You can compost some of the natural fibers like cotton, linen, hemp. And then, of course, if you don't have any access to any of these, which I don't know why you wouldn't, go ahead and put those in the trash. The fashion industry is one of the most egregious violators of environmental standards internationally. So making sure that we are, donating, reusing wherever we can. Maybe you want to take your old t-shirts and turn them into shop towels or dust rags. You can reuse them around the house, but there's loads of ways. Just throw it in Chat GPT, give me some ideas how to reuse textiles, and it'll spit out 20 ideas for you. But definitely you can compost some of these more natural, non-synthetic fibers. So no, no latex, and no lycra or poly whatever's what's that stuff called? Polyester. That's a plastic. All right, so next one. Chip bags with snack or candy wrappers.
Yeah, pretty much we all think it goes in the trash.
All right. Very good. Now, even though these are lined with that silver lining inside and it kind of looks like aluminum and it's like, oh, maybe it's recyclable. No, it's not. It's called Mylar and it is a plastic. So it might give the resemblance of aluminum, but it's not. It's Mylar plastic. It's got to go in the trash. Next up, household batteries.
Most people know to recycle those. Some people say trash. I guess it depends on where you're from, what options are available to you for your batteries.
All right. Answer. Reuse. So these would be your rechargeable batteries. So if you have the opportunity to invest in rechargeables, please do so. That's your best bet. And then, of course, your battery recycling programs. And if you absolutely must throw them in the trash, they really need to be wrapped first. So you either put them in a well-sealed, kind of plastic Tupperware container, or you'll put them in a Ziploc bag. That way that they're not commingled with the other trash, because these can be really dangerous whenever they're in the trash. Just Google New York garbage truck fire batteries, and you'll see an appalling video that I've seen recently where a New York City garbage truck caught on fire because somebody put their lithium ion batteries into the trash, just, la-di-da. And it could have really caused, it caused a lot of damage, but could have caused a lot of worker harm. I don't think most people understand how much risk it takes to be a trash hauler or the trash guy that hangs off the back of the truck picking up your carts on the side of the road every day. There's so much that goes into it to handle these materials safely, and it's incumbent upon us to be handling our own materials safely and keeping those workers safe and not giving them corrosive materials that's going to harm them. So this is just a quick caveat for those who live in Austin. You definitely don't want to put your batteries into the recycling bin. And if you do, you don't want to put them in your landfill trash bin unwrapped, which is what I meant to say here. But for Austinites, Austin Recycle and Reuse Drop-Off Center in Southeast Austin will take your batteries. The Austin Public Library branches have batteries, especially the one off of, is it Burnett, Recycled Reeds? If you're in that area, Recycled Reeds is a great location, but they do have, they are the ones who started Battery Take Back for all the Austin Public Library branches. Of course, your major retailers, check out, your Walmarts and your Targets, and then Batteries Plus and Bulb retail locations. I think that's nationwide, as well as the retail centers. So if you do have any additional questions, you can also go to the austintexas.gov battery page for the drop-off locations here. All right, so this is the last one, and it's a trick question. What are we doing with a greasy pizza box?
We're seeing mostly compost, some recycling. I would say 70 compost, 30 recycling.
Okay, answer. So for the top that doesn't have any food waste on it, go ahead and tear it off, fold it up, and put it in your recycled bin. And for the bottom that's very greasy and cheesy, go ahead and put it into your compost bin. You can separate those. If you don't have access to either, go ahead and put it into your landfill trash. Thank you very much for everyone participating. I just want to stop right here and see if there are any burning questions out there that folks have that may have dropped in the chat.
Stacy, I saw one earlier in relation to plastics, just kind of questioning about how often the plastics can actually be recycled. Do you want to share any kind of thoughts or information there?
Yeah, you know, plastics, it depends on how thick they are and how rigid, but plastics, honestly, if we're talking just like a soda bottle or a water bottle, those can only be recycled maybe 2 or 3 times. And then what happens to them is typically kind of get shredded, and they will be turned into kind of like a thread for outdoor gear. So think about, you know, your hoodies and your beanies and even tents and sleeping bags, that kind of thing. It's where it needs to be kind of waterproofish, but you can turn them into a thread that is woven into an outdoor gear product. It's not the only product, outdoor gear, industry that uses recycled or threaded plastics, but it's the one that comes to mind. Anything else before we move on? All right, hearing none. So being zero waste at home. So if you live in an apartment complex, or even if you've got a backyard, there are several things that you can do. So you want to look into, for apartment living or condo living, the city of Austin is rolling out the second part of the organics ordinance under the universal recycling ordinance that passed about 10 years ago. This is the one that requires all of the food permitted businesses to divert their organic materials away from landfills. This is being determined right now to extend that to apartment complexes and condos, and letting renters be able to participate in not necessarily curbside, but being able to bring your bucket down to a compost bin at your apartment complex. So the city's reasoning is that all residents in Austin now have access to recycling, but only some of the residents have access to curbside composting. If you live in an apartment, you don't currently. So once that ordinance is passed and it comes into full effect, then apartment dwellers should be able to also divert their food scraps as well. But until then, look out for some ways to divert your materials, like bokashi buckets make a nutritious tea that you can feed your house plants, and you don't need kind of a backyard. It processes internally in the bucket. But also there's those countertop mechanical ones now that we have, like what is it, the Lomi, and then there's the food cycler, and these are ones that you can either put up on your countertop, or there's one that you can put on the floor that is about the size of a trash can, but it will churn and churn and churn. In about 24 hours, it will make a dry kind of compost soil amendment that you can use out on your plants in your garden, and even filling in holes in your yard if you want to. So things that you can do to get rid of your food waste is starting to become a lot more advanced, as well as accessible for the apartment dwellers. And then, of course, you can always find a local drop-off location. So this could be like a nearby community garden or a school, maybe a church. You definitely want to follow their signs, because big industrial haulers, they take your curbside composting from the bin, and then they'll bring it to their big industrial facility, where that big industrial facilities able to get up to a heat that is so hot that it breaks down meat, bone, and dairy. These community organics programs cannot do that. So it's imperative not to cross-contaminate their organics with meat, bone, and dairy. So no dairy products, no cheese, no sour cream, no bones, no shells of any sort, and no deli meat or whatnot. But just make sure that you're following their guidelines, because their program just can't get hot enough in order to break that stuff down. So another way is to start, if you've got a kind of a backyard garden area, to go ahead and consider starting your own backyard garden using that soil generated from composting your own food scraps. And even in your dorm room or your apartment, you can try vertical gardening as well. It takes up a lot less space. So another pro tip: collect food scraps and store them in your freezer until they're ready for dumping into your compost heap. The way that I do this is I've got, those big 16-ounce tubs of salad that you'll get at HEB or Walmart or wherever. I just use those. I've got 2 of those in my freezer, and I fill them up. It takes me about a week and a half to fill both of them up to the rim, and I take them out to my backyard composter and dump them in, put some dry leaves and some pine needles in there, and I give it a couple of spins, and then I just let nature go work. Another way to be zero waste at home is to get active in these issues. So you can always contact your local officials, especially if you don't have these kinds of recycling policies for businesses or for residents in your local area. You can pick up the phone and call your county commissioners. You can call your city council members, call your mayor. You can write to them, email them, tag them on social media to inquire about these sustainability programs in the area. And then you can even help initiate diversion programs as a taxpayer. You can do community organizing and education. You can work with local nonprofits that need volunteers to get the word out and get community participation to support putting pressure on local officials who have the power to enact these types of programs if you don't have them already. If you do have these programs already, it's important to report problems to the code enforcement departments. If you see you just absolute blatant non-compliance at your apartment complex, and overflowing, and you can call the city and at 311, at least here in Austin, and you can report that. And then if you're going to venture out into your local, state, or national parks to be one with nature, make sure to practice the seven steps of leave no trace. You should leave these places better than you found them. And it's a pack it in, pack it out situation every single time. And it's important that we teach our kids that too. So, zero waste at work. This is something that is starting to be a little bit more prevalent in the business community that employees are starting to see. So looking for things like a 3-bin system. Usually companies only have a 2-bin system where you have a garbage or trash and a recycling bin, but the companies are starting to understand that compost and getting organics out of the landfill trash is an opportunity for stronger diversion rates and stronger sustainability marketing avenues. And so you always want to look for the bin systems and make sure to use them properly. They should have color coordination. The green compost is usually green. Recycling is usually blue, and landfill trash or garbage is usually black, gray, or tan. And it usually comes with corresponding signage that shows you what is and is not allowed in those bins. So make sure to follow all the business signage to reduce any bin cross-contamination. Let me tell you something. If you're a recycling hauler and about 25 to 30% of your entire load that you've picked up from around a community or throughout all your business clients, if that load is about 25 to 30% contaminated with trash and food, it's all going to landfill. It just doesn't make sense financially for them to pick through to find the clean recyclables, because 30% of it is trash and food waste. Most of it's not going to be clean. It's incumbent upon us as the generators of the materials to keep things clean and dry in the recycling bin, keep food waste out of the recycling, keep garbage out of the recycling. And if you're ever in doubt, throw it out. If you come up to a bin and you're like, oh, I don't know if this was recyclable, I don't see a number on the bottom, I don't see it on the sign, what should I do with it? Throw it in the garbage immediately. If you can't identify what the material is and you're just not sure, then when in doubt, throw it out. So just keep that top of mind. And then, of course, annual education for employees. All Austin businesses have to provide an employee education on an annual basis about how to recycle properly and how to use the indoor bins correctly. And then you also want to be aware as a worker of your own personal habits and what materials that you're bringing to the workspace from the outside of the facility. Are you the main Starbucks fan in your office? Are you a fast food fan? A lot of times people can look inside of a waste bin and they know exactly who put that material there, because they're the ones that always come in with that one, bottle of Frappuccino from the 7-Eleven, the Starbucks that they bought at 7-Eleven. So there's a lot of
about what is inside the bin, about who put that stuff there. So just make sure that as you're bringing things in, you'll want to create good habits around that. And if you're bringing stuff from the outside, you want to maybe look at things that are recyclable, not necessarily stuff that can go in the trash. So if you've got that glass, Frappuccino Starbucks bottle, is it going into the recycling bin? Because if it's not and going into the garbage, most people know that you're the culprit. So just being able to handle your own materials properly is the key message here, following the signs and the color coding bins. So in Austin, businesses, this is what they have to display. It has to be in English and in Spanish, and it has to show what goes in the bin and what does not. And if you have a food permit in Austin, you also have to display, if you choose to do a composting route, you have to display these kind of signs as well. Also in English and Spanish. There's other second languages that you can put them in. They've got Vietnamese and Thai and other languages, of course, even Mandarin. But it has to be an English and then a secondary language that is most appropriate for your workforce. And then, showing what is and is not acceptable. And then you couple that with the annual education training. So this is one of our clients, one of the heavy hitter tech companies up in North Austin. And you can see here that they have a employee cafeteria area that has a landfill, a recycling, and 3 composting stations. This is the cafeteria area, so of course food waste is going to be the most abundant waste items generated. So also on the right, they have been able to switch over to compostable straws and compostable flatware as well. And then things that you can do at work. Many people do, ordering for their team, or they'll order for an event. But whenever you are doing takeout or delivery, you can always refuse common items, kind of kitchenette areas. So if you already have condiments, tell them you don't need them. If you already have silverware and you've got cups and napkins or that kind of thing, you don't need them from the business that is bringing you the food. You can just refuse that. So remember, refusal is the top of the pyramid, is the top of the hierarchy, is to not create the waste in the first place. And then also you can bring like a little lunch kit, like you see here on the right, a cloth napkin. I've got one of these bamboo flatware containers you can use. These are just some examples to bring your own coffee mug, of course, bring your own water bottle, reusable water bottle, refillable, and bring your own lunch, stuff that that's the healthy stuff that's going in your body, and instead of bringing in that outside food that we had talked about earlier. And that way you can pack it in, pack it out, right? And then, of course, you'll always want to have additional resources by learning at your own pace. You can take a look at these websites. If you want to take a screenshot of this real quick, you can take a look at these organizations that are really leading the way. Zero Waste International Alliance is the organization that came up with the 90% waste reduction goal. So they're kind of the granddaddies of it all. The U.S. Green Building Council, as you guys probably know, administered the LEED certifications. True Zero Waste certification is also part of the U.S. Green Building Council. Instead of water and energy, it really focuses on waste reduction and getting business clients to that 90%. Our team is True certified, so we are able to walk business clients through the True certification process. If anybody's interested in that, you do have to take a test and all of that, but the certification, once you get it, is good for 5 years, so yay. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is based out of England. They're another heavy hitter. Five Gyres talks about the plastic gyres swirling in our oceans. And then if you have kids, Story of Stuff project is amazing. Story of Stuff is a 20-30 minute cartoon vignettes that take very, very complex issues and just kind of whittle it down to simple terms and easy to understand. So these are great for I mean, even I enjoy them. I love Story of Stuff and what they do to take those big, overwhelming issues and put them in simple terms that kind of give you hope. And then the last question I have for everyone is, if we're not for zero waste, how much waste are we for? And then here's my contact information. Feel free to screenshot this as well. You've got my email address, our website, and my business line, and then you can find us on social media. And then it looks like we've got several minutes for Q&A if you want to do that.
Yeah, let's open it up if someone wants to raise their hand and go ahead and ask your question. Otherwise, I do have a few prepared questions. While we wait for questions, Stacy, what are your recommendations for folks looking into zero waste as a career?
As a consultant?
As a career consultant or any other kind of role?
I would say as a career, I would start at your kind of local level and start to understand who the players are in your local area regarding recycling, waste management, understand who the haulers are, who run those companies, understand who on your city council or your county commissioner's court actually buy into the idea of waste diversion as an economic driver, and really helping them get other council members on board. You can join organizations that push this. If you want to see if you can get appointed to one of the boards or commissions that the city council takes advice from on these particular issues. There's usually an environmental board or a food policy board, or something that deals with zero waste, or or some kind of environmental sustainability board that you can put your application in. So getting to understand who the local players are is really important. So that allows you to start networking with people who can introduce you to this person and to this person. Join a group like what you guys are doing. It's you know, the networking is unreal whenever you really put your minds together and, oh, I know so and so who can help you with that. Like, that's easy. Let me give you a warm introduction really quick via email. So there's, joining those kind of groups with like-minded people who can support you in those endeavors, and then start to get your certifications, guys. These certifications, I think the one that I took for True through the U.S. Green Building Council and the Green Business Certification Inc. I think it was $250, and you have 6 months to complete it. But it literally took me just a couple of hours to review all the information, and I just went for it. I took the test, and the test was like an hour and a half long. So, and then it's good for 5 years. So then I would say after that, you would want to, I guess, start looking in your local area for small businesses that you can help to start getting your kind of feet underneath you with what kind of services that you want to provide. For us, Zero Waste Strategies provides waste audits where we get up to our elbows for 5 or 6 hours, and we sort through trash, recycling, and food waste, and we develop out percentages and compositions, and we give an overall view of, and we dive deep. We get down to the gum wrapper, y'all. And then we develop out reports to show people what their baseline measurements are, what they need to do to get to a stronger recycling rate, how to stop the cross-contamination issue. So we'll do those waste audits. We'll do employee training. That's a lot of fun. We'll incorporate these types of games like we just played, and then we'll help them with green marketing strategies based on what their industry is and what the messaging should look like. And then, of course, the certification process is always there if they want to go to that level. And the certifications is always very important to larger businesses, and that's where the cha-ching is, baby.
Thanks, Stacy. We only have about a minute left. Let's just see if we can fit one more question in from Adam. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, sorry, my video is not working here. Yeah, question for Stacy. Wondering if what level of involvement that Zero Waste Strategies had in kind of the earlier stages of the value chain, in kind of like the engineering or design. Is there any involvement in that, and like modularity or recyclability, or any policy kind of involvement, or participation in kind of the earlier stage, because I know that can really kind of then determine what options there are for end of life products.
Yeah, unfortunately, manufacturers do not speak with recyclers. There is a bottleneck in the middle where these products and these materials cannot be recycled over here. So that's why these producer take back pieces of legislation are so critical, because it puts the onus back on the company who is manufacturing the product. That drives them to reduce toxins because they have to deal with it. That drives them to use recycled content because they have to deal with it. That drives them to make their products designed for recyclability because they have to deal with it. The onus and financial burden is no longer on the taxpayer whenever these producer take back laws are in place and people actually use them. So it really helps them further upstream. It comes in the design and the design and planning phase, of the material selection phase upstream in the entire value chain. So it's up to the designers and those who imagine these products to be manufactured to use more holistic approaches, use less toxic materials, and find feedstock that are coming from recycled, reclaimed materials rather than raw virgin products that are extracted out of the ground or whatnot. So it's really, because people like you and me, we're just customers, right? We just buy things off the shelves that are in front of us. We don't have the power to force their design process to be more environmentally sustainable. Although what we can do is no longer buy their products if they don't. So there's, all kinds of campaigns that are going on where we're boycotting companies left and right because they are, really falling short on worker health safety standards. They're falling short on environmental standards. They're using child labor, slave labor in the Congo. There's all sorts of very unethical practices that people are finding out about, and they're saying no more. I deny you my dollars. And so we can do that we can vote with our dollars as consumers, but we don't have the privilege to design the products that end up on our store shelves. We just have the selection, and we can choose to not select them if we want. So, but that requires a savvy buyer. That requires doing your research before you go looking for those products.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're a couple minutes over. So Audrey, I just want to kick it back to you as a facilitator to just kind of wrap up the call and mention some of the resources available to folks. And personally, Stacy, I want to thank you for joining us. So back to you, Audrey.
Fun.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us, and really appreciate you taking your time to talk with us and your beautiful presentation. For folks that have joined us, or maybe have already popped off already, we did record this conversation. We're going to post it on the Circle platform, and I'll post it in my drive for people who are outside of the cohort that may want to review it or take a peek through. Lastly, there was a document that I popped into the chat that is resources for this group over the last couple of months. We've been capturing notes and podcasts and companies and whatnot. So if there's anything that you want to add to that, please feel free to do so. And then final note is our time slot here seems to overlap with the new cohort time frame. Apologies for stepping on the keynote speaker for today. So we'll be shifting this time. So just keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for updates. And I really appreciate Deb and Corey's work to have Stacey join us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye, y'all. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me. Bye.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Anytime.
Yep. Bye.
See ya.